everybody. Thanks so much for clicking on the video and watching today. As some of you might know, I have mentioned before that I am a coach, and for a number of my coachees, I would say 99% of the people I've ever coached, at some point in our coaching journey, we come to this topic that is the topic of today's video, that's procrastination. I think everybody, even people who really do get things done and get things done well, have faced procrastination in some shape or form. And the thing about procrastination is that we all know we shouldn't be doing it. Even as I speak to people, and I'm sure when I still continue to speak to people about it, everyone kind of knows they shouldn't be doing it. They don't like it. They don't enjoy procrastinating. And yet, it's so hard to get away from. It's so sticky. People know that they should be spending time doing something else, and they usually know what that is that they should be actually spending their time on. And yet, this procrastination thing is like quicksand. And so today's book called Solving the Procrastination Puzzle, and it's by Tame Pychyl. You'll see down below how to spell his surname. I'm really not sure how to say it. And it's a very concise guide for change. And I think this is great because it is a very nice and short book. And for anybody who does really struggle with procrastination, the thought of even reading a long book just must be like the most intimidating thing ever. So I'm sure that he did this very intentionally, making it short and digestible. And also he is an associate professor of psychology, which is interesting. And you might notice this fluff ball on my lap. This is my dog, and he really just wants to sit on my lap today. There's no getting around it. It's pretty cold where I am. So this is where he's going to be, and I hope you enjoy. Before we get into any of the tactics that will be outlined in the book, I often like to kind of take a little bit of a dive into what the topic actually is. And something like procrastination, especially, a word we use a lot, I think it's very helpful to kind of unwrap it to discuss what actually is procrastination. And the author describes it as a voluntary, needless delay. And I think this is very interesting because it often delays something that you need to do by how much that depends on the level of procrastination you're dealing with. It's voluntary in the sense that nobody's asking you to procrastinate or wants you to. So it is voluntary and it's needless. It really doesn't help. When the author goes deeper to explain what procrastination actually is, he outlines it as a habit. And this is why it's like quicksand. It's so sticky. It's so hard to get rid of because procrastinating is actually a habit. We do it unconsciously as a response to certain things. And the more that we do it, the more it becomes ingrained and the harder it is to break free from that pattern, because I'm sure you've realized we just like to make habits of things. Our brain likes to expend the least energy possible, and habits is a great way of doing that. And as I usually say, and you'll probably get tired of hearing in almost all self-development books, it means that for now, for the beginning, you have to spend that extra bit of energy to break out of the habit before procrastination is no longer a habit. And that's also why we stay stuck in it, because that little bit of extra effort we have to do to get out of a pattern, get out of something that we used to, feels uncomfortable. Just because something's uncomfortable does not mean that it's bad. So I know that it does get repeated, and hopefully you will see the merit in it and see it in your own life too. One of the first things you can do to try and beat this habit of procrastination, the first step in this is actually understanding when you procrastinate, because you may just do it and you may not notice certain patterns or bits of information that you could be getting from this habit and when you do it. So for example, I'll just use my own experience with this book and procrastination in general. When it comes to things like exercising, I don't find I procrastinate that. I've gotten into a habit of getting up, getting dressed, and exercising every morning, and it's harder for me to not do that. So it's not something I have to procrastinate. So that kind of eliminates that. I don't really procrastinate exercising. So I'd have to think a little bit deeper about, what do I procrastinate? Okay, some things that I procrastinate, oh, I know this. As I'm saying it, the realization is setting in. It's when I have to ask somebody for something. So I currently work in a corporate environment, and that means that a lot of what I need probably needs somebody's sign off. I need to check something with somebody, or I need clarity on something. When it's just me and I can research the answers or figure it out myself, I'm not going to procrastinate that. As soon as I have to ask somebody something, I know that I procrastinate those kinds of things. So once you've identified something like that, or a number of things where you tend to procrastinate, you can see if there's any patterns like I just did. The author suggests that you look into what could be an emotion behind that that's making you procrastinate, because we often procrastinate something because we don't want to do it because of some kind of negative emotion. So for me, it might be fear. It might be fear that the person's angry that I asked that. Even if it sounds crazy, most people are very willing to help you and help me. It's important not to judge at any point in this process, because sometimes we do have these emotions and they may not make the most sense. It doesn't make them any less strong and impactful. So let's say that emotion is fear. I'm afraid that people are going to react badly, or they're not going to want to help me, or insert whatever outcome here that I want to avoid. Well, the author says emotions are okay, feelings are okay, we acknowledge them. I'm a huge advocate for having space for your emotions. Don't let your emotions become you. If I let my fear of what other people might say or do in response to my request, if I let that stop me, I'm letting that emotion become me. So it's okay to feel the emotion of fear. Don't let yourself become the emotion of fear. So even though it's probably uncomfortable, have space to feel that emotion. Don't attach to it. Let it go. There's a lot of emotions that you're going to feel that you don't have to become, and you'll be better off not giving in to those emotions. Following on from this, if you notice that you procrastinate in certain instances and there is a certain emotion that you're trying to get rid of or avoid, and that's why you procrastinate, then you'll probably recognize the scenarios where you've been faced with that thing, you've procrastinated, and you felt better. After all, most of our habits and the things that we do unconsciously are to seek a state of comfort or to feel good. It feels good to avoid a negative emotion, even if in the long run that's not the best way forward. And so the author reminds us that our brain is just trying to make us feel better. It's trying to make us feel comfortable by procrastinating and avoiding whatever negative emotion might be popping up in response to something that you don't want to do but need to do. And so with that realization, find the inner strength to push past it. The more that we get used to the cycle and the more that we give in to this idea of avoiding negative emotions, the more we'll do it. And this habit of procrastination will extend further and further and further, because there's a lot of things in your life that you probably won't want to do because of some kind of negative emotion. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. And in fact, a lot of awesome things are usually on the other side of the things that we're afraid of. With this, remind yourself, and you can even write this down somewhere, don't give in to feel good. Step on up to what should. I think that's quite nice. It's quite concise. Remember that anybody who's successful in anything that they've done are successful because they did the things that other people didn't want to do. A lot of people are just giving into this procrastination cycle and avoiding negative emotions. And that's what will make you stand out. That's what will make you successful in whatever you want to do, is not giving into the moment-to-moment feelings and staying true to the overarching goal. Something else that you can couple with that quote or just reminding yourself to do the things even if it feels uncomfortable is writing what tasks you need to do on any given day, and then focusing on the ones that you assume you're going to procrastinate. Next to the goal, write whatever you're afraid of. It might not be fear. I guess that was, in my case, it related to my example. But whatever task that you put off for whatever reason, write down the reasons why you're procrastinating, why it's difficult. And then on the other side or somewhere else, write the consequences of procrastinating. If you don't do this thing for a certain amount of time, it's going to be delayed. People are going to be disappointed. You might be disappointed in yourself because you said you would do it. Other people might be relying on you. It might cost you a number of things, be it extra time, be it money, whatever it is. Write down the consequences and see if you can just weigh them up. It's a good thing to be practical with yourself and just face the facts, what you need to do, why you need to do it, and what are the consequences of not doing it, because I think sometimes we just get distracted from that, and so a little push, a little reminder of that can be super helpful. A common excuse or something people say when it comes to this idea of procrastination is, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it when I feel like it. And the truth is, when it comes to doing hard work to achieve the goals that you want, you'll probably never actually feel like doing those things, or maybe you'll feel like doing them once or twice throughout your whole journey. This is in relation to motivation. People like the feeling of motivation, and it's a great feeling. It's a great thing to be motivated. But motivation is very fleeting, and actually, our motivational state does not need to match the intention. You can do the hard things and put in the work even if you don't feel like doing it. You have this overarching goal, and you don't need to feel motivated every single day for 6 months as you reach that goal. You just need the habits. You just need to get down and do it even if you don't feel like it. And that's because you've got the goal in place and you're going to do the work. You might not have the motivation day to day. The motivation does make it easier, but it may not always be there. I hope that wasn't something morbid to hear. Something that can help you is just to be very aware of your energy and how it dips and peaks throughout the day. Because we're only human, we can't be functioning at 100% all the time. So for example, if you know you work very well in the morning, maybe once you're a bit awake, I would say, back when I was studying, I was very, very good and aware of these things. So I knew that I would wake up, exercise from about 8:30 till about 10:30. Those were like my really good hours. And I was very concentrated, very focused. Then generally you need a lunch or a snack or a walk around. And then after lunch, so let's say around 1:30 to 2 or so, that was also okay. There was still some focus there, but it wasn't like peak focus. And then I know that I hit a slump around 4 p.m. And so being aware of your energy and how it works with this means that you can do your most tricky, most tasks, for lack of a better word, the most difficult tasks, the tasks that require the most effort when you have the most energy. And then you'll generally have ones that are in the medium zone that are fairly difficult but not that bad. And then do the ones that you actually kind of like or that require a lot less energy, and leave that for when you are feeling tired. Because then if you like it, I mean, it's something to look forward to. And if it's something that's kind of like mundane, it doesn't need that much concentration, you can put on some music, put on a series in the background, whatever allows you to still get the work done, but just makes it feel like you're treating yourself a little bit. This is a really great way to get things done. And I implemented this back when I was studying, and I was known as the person who had my notes done before we even knew what to study for the test. I was always on top of it because I had this in place. I had a habit of always making notes and getting that done either in the beginning of the day or finding a way to slot it in very regularly. Another piece of advice that the author gives that may be overly simplistic, and I don't want to be boring, but I do think that sometimes the simple and the most obvious things are just the most impactful. And what he says is literally just get started. I think Sometimes we overthink a certain thing we want to do, and that's why we procrastinate it. We want our first attempt to be good, or we have such an idea of what we would like it to look like that we're almost afraid to start because what if it doesn't end up like that? Just make one step, just attempt, just do it. And I'm here to tell you that likely your first attempt, your first draft, whatever it is probably going to be pretty bad. But it's something to work from, and it's so much better to work from something than to work from nothing. So just get started. You only can improve on something that's in front of you. So just make the step. And if you have something that's maybe an overarching goal, a bit more of an ambiguous goal, just think of one thing you could easily do in the next week that feels very achievable. Break it down into those mini stepping stones and just get started on that. This is very helpful because even if the first attempt isn't that good, you will feel better and more optimistic at the fact that you did just try. You did make some progress. The thing about procrastination is the more we do it, the more we do it. The more you procrastinate, the more you feel bad about yourself, and then you have negative associations with that thing that you're trying to do because you're avoiding it. If you at least make some progress, you feel like you've done something and you're just a little bit more empowered to do some more. An interesting thing that the author suggests that I'm very curious to hear if anybody has any different thoughts to it is self-forgiveness for procrastination. And this is interesting because you may think you need to punish yourself for procrastinating and that punishing yourself will make you avoid procrastinating. Actually, when the author did research, he found that self-forgiveness is related to less avoidance. So when you do procrastinate and you kind of shame yourself, you tell yourself you're lazy, how could you do this? You avoid that thing more. And it's that association. You're associating those shameful thoughts with that activity. Whereas if you can just have some forgiveness for yourself, see it as part of the bigger picture, admit that today was not your day and you'll get onto it tomorrow, you may find that it's not as much of a hurdle or you haven't made it as much of a mountain in your mind. I find this interesting because some people do work well when they not punish themselves. I feel like that's a harsh way of putting it, but they are inspired by negative consequences. They just are. So I'm curious if anybody has any different ideas to that or if they disagree. Definitely share your thoughts below. I just thought I'd mention it because, as I said, he did look into the research behind it. So it's worth experimenting with if facing negative consequences or reminding yourself of negative consequences of procrastination hasn't exactly helped you. Try just forgiving yourself for the procrastination and wanting to do better and see how that works. There are 3 quick tips that you can use to help you along your journey of procrastinating less. The first one is set deadlines for yourself. Even if whatever you're doing doesn't have a deadline, set a deadline for it because it will help you stay accountable and it will help you not forget about the task or let the task slip through the cracks. So even if these things you need to do don't inherently have deadlines, try spread them out, try give them deadlines. Also, if you're working on a big project, give yourself mini deadlines. So if there's a number of things you need to do that are kind of like pieces to a bigger puzzle, give yourself deadlines for each puzzle piece of that overall project. It's really going to help you so that it doesn't all come crashing down the night before that thing is actually due. The next one is when you do kind of complete tasks or complete little milestones towards a certain goal, celebrate them. Reward yourself for the tasks that you do and the little milestones that you reach. And this is totally up to you. I mean, you can have different rewards for different things. If you have a bigger goal of exercising, then every day after you exercise, you could reward yourself with, I don't know, watching one of your favorite YouTubers or watching one series of something you enjoy. You know, getting that exercise in almost unlocks your ability to watch your series. And if it's something bigger, you know, completing this one milestone of a project, maybe go out for a nice dinner, cook yourself a nice dinner. Whatever it is, just make sure to celebrate your progress and then ask somebody to check up on you. A sad-ish reality is that we really don't want to disappoint others more than we don't want to disappoint ourselves. So if you tell somebody that you want to exercise every day or 3 days this week, just telling them and knowing that they may ask you about it is inspirational. It does drive you to do the hard thing. Or telling somebody that you have this and this goal to complete by this and this week does really kind of give you that extra push to actually do it because somebody else may be expecting that of you. And you can also be pretty, I guess, strategic in who you ask and tell about the things that you want to do. I'm sure you know there's certain people in your lives that will remember that thing that you set out to do, and they probably will ask you about it. So you can also be strategic in that way. Telling that friend or family member that's like, oh, okay, that's cool, and then they never mention again, probably isn't the ideal. It's better than nothing. But try and also think about somebody that you know kind of really listens to things like that and may even check up on you. I really hope that you at least found one of these tips or one of these ideas useful from the book. I think that procrastination is something that really hinders a lot of people and prevents them from doing a lot of cool things or just slows them down a lot. We waste a lot of time procrastinating when there are ways to kind of figure it out and move forward. So you don't have to struggle and just be stuck with procrastination, even though a lot of other people are. You can figure out your own way of getting out of this maze of procrastination and actually finding more time in your day. So hopefully something helped you. Let me know. You can leave a comment down below on what did help you more. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. And bye.